Hello and thanks for joining us on the second episode of Birmingham Business TV. We're excited to bring you this remarkable episode and we've got a lot on today.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in to our first episode, the thousands of you who've said very nice things about what we did, so we thought we'd come back and do it all again. We're coming to you once again from the Liquid Media Centre, right in the heart of the city. And Davis, of course, it's Birmingham Tech Week this week.
Absolutely.
So lots of tech to talk about, isn't it?
Lots of tech to talk about. We've got Out and About with Palm Shima, who has been at Birmingham Tech Week. We've got an interview with Simon Washbrook of Popcorn, and we've got the amazing Joel Blake Business Show. Carl, what else have we got?
Well, we'll also be finding out what the LEP are up to, the Greater Birmingham and Solihull LEP. They're going to be here. We've got a panel debate, which I'm looking forward to chairing very shortly. And of course, news, views, analysis around the city. So shall we get started?
Absolutely. Let's get started because it promises to be an incredible episode.
Well, I'm delighted to welcome in our Hot Topics hot seat this month, Julia Rosenblum from Evelyn Partners. Julia, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, there's only one hot topic really we can talk about, isn't it? And that's the mini budget.
Yes.
That wasn't technically a mini budget.
Yes.
What's your take on it? And tell me about sort of your specialism so people know where you're coming at it from.
Okay. Well, so I specialise in tax, in particular dealing with business owners, owner-managed businesses, people who are looking to exit their businesses, succeed their businesses to the next generation, or just grow it and make a great success of it. So that's kind of my thing.
So you're quite a good litmus test really into what
Yes.
businesses are telling you out there. So what was initial headline response to what you heard and what you saw?
Well, it's the most contentful budget that we've had in years. So as much as it's been called a mini budget, I've kind of been through years of budgets where nothing really happened or nothing overly significant happened, whereas this was a budget where there were a huge number of changes. And a lot of those changes are clearly aimed at businesses and growth. That's the headline to the whole mini budget. It's about getting growth. And there are lots of measures in there that are actually really good and are going to be really positive for businesses.
So what happened the afternoon or the morning after the budget? Did the phone then start going off the hook? Did your email go crazy? What was the response from your clients and your businesses to what they had heard?
It was a real mix, actually. So from an immediate headline point of view, the hold of the corporation tax rate at 19%. So it was going to go up to 25% in April next year, but it's not going up to 25%, it's sticking at 19%. So for a lot of businesses who operate through companies, that's hugely positive.
And Liz Truss had hinted she was going to do that in a leadership campaign anyway, hadn't she? So it wasn't a total surprise.
Correct. So that was expected. You never know until it's actually announced, but that was no surprise. Similarly, the withdrawal of the increase in national insurance and the extra tax that was coming out on dividends as well that we've got, so that extra 1.25 percentage points. So both of those have been pulled back as well. Reduction in the basic rate tax as well from 20 to 19%. So there were a lot. So a lot of it, there was an immediate positive reaction actually. The reaction, however, more widely. So the reaction of the markets, the reaction of at the interest rate, the banks, the lenders.
Well, some people even pulled their mortgages, didn't they?
They did.
So
Yeah, so there's kind of lots of stories out there of mortgage rates that have been offered and rocketing. And so that caused a lot of problems for individuals and for businesses as well who are maybe looking at funding, who are in the process of arranging funding to help their growth. And all of a sudden, the lending has become more challenging.
I was going to ask you that. Let's say I'm a business in the city here, and I'm right at the point where I'm looking to raise finance. What has this announcement done to the prospects and the ease of doing so?
My experience of it so far is that it's become more difficult and more expensive. So the interest rates were already climbing. So we've already seen, even before the mini budget, we've seen a climb of interest rates. So that, again, that wasn't that. It's not unexpected that we've seen that. Clearly, the predictions are that there will be even more of an increase in interest rates. But also, it's the reaction of the lenders and how they are reacting to what's going on, and being more cautious, offering fewer opportunities for lending, being more careful. So I have clients who are in the middle of arranging funding basically to expand their businesses. And it's not quite back to the drawing board, but it's, okay, we've got to pull back now, and all of that, what we thought was on the table isn't on the table in quite the same form.
And I mean, one thing businesses always want is predictability, stability, and able to look out to the horizon at what's coming, don't they?
Yes.
We just don't really have that at the moment, do we?
No, and one of the interesting things that has happened, actually, I mean, the opinion polls, so the opinion polls straight after the mini budget have shown a reduction in the popularity of the government. And if you take what it says in the opinion polls, there looks like there could be a change of government in 2 years' time. Now, of course, a lot can happen in 2 years.
A week's a long time in politics,
absolutely,
isn't it?
well, quite exactly. But what that has done to a lot of business owners in particular, and especially those that are at the other end of their business, so maybe they're looking at an exit. I mean, one of the immediate reactions that I had from a particular client who was particularly worried about this, who said, well, we've been talking about exiting from the business in sort of 2, 3, 4 years' time. And their concern is that if we do have a change of government, what that could do to tax rates, and in particular, in their instance, capital gains tax. So at the moment, if you're a business and you're looking to exit and sell your business, then you can probably have a bit at 10% capital gains tax, so £1 million worth of qualifying gains are taxed at 10%, and then the balance at 20%. Now, those rates aren't bad, actually. I mean, they're not quite historically low, but they are very close to being historically low. So if you're a business exiting under this particular regime, it's quite good, actually. It's quite good tax regime.
So if you are, is there a school of thought that says people might actually want to hurry on those plans and make sure they're finished in the next 2 years then?
I have certainly already had discussions with clients where they are concerned that a change of government could bring a less beneficial tax regime. So if the rate of capital gains tax were increased, or if business asset disposal relief were withdrawn, then they could find themselves with a much different tax result than
A quite
if they
significant
exit now.
amount that could be as well, couldn't it?
Yes, I mean, if capital gains tax rates were to align with income tax rates, for example, then we could see a doubling of the capital gains tax that would be paid. So if you're a business owner that's in that zone where you're thinking, well, do I exit in 2 years, or do I exit in 3 years or 4 years? It may just nudge that decision forward. It has to be the right time for the business. No one should ever say, I'm going to do this purely because of tax. But I have already started having conversations with clients who are saying, well, actually, if I am on that threshold, then maybe an exit.
Maybe the tipping point then, isn't it?
I think for some it will be, and we can't predict. We can't predict the result of a general election, and we can't predict what the tax policy of the new government could be if there is a new government. But that is clearly a concern.
But of course, uncertain times, yes, we're definitely in, but we also need to make sure we're not just talking the economy down, and there are still some good things, aren't there? I mean, like investment zones,
yes.
was mentioned, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's very relevant for Birmingham, isn't it?
It's a really positive announcement, and as I say, that there were a lot of measures in that mini budget that perhaps haven't seen the air that they should receive to kind of build that. Actually, there is lots of positives here. So the government are introducing investment zones. And they're already in discussion with, I think it's 38 regions within England for zones who may get this special investment zone status. And that investment zone status will bring all kinds of good things with it. So a relaxation in some administrative matters and planning regulations and that kind of thing. And from a tax point of view as well, there's what should be on offer to an investment zone is 100% relief on business rates, SDLT exemption, so stamp duty land tax, if people are buying within an investment zone. National insurance breaks as well for businesses who are positioned in an investment zone and who take on employees working in that investment zone, so national insurance breaks. And there's also some enhanced capital allowances, so when a business invests in capital assets that are needed for its business, usually the tax relief on that acquisition is phased over many, many years. So in an investment zone, there will be special rules that allow more immediate tax relief. And the West Midlands Combined Authority is on that list that's in discussions.
So we need to be championing and promoting a lot of these benefits for these zones, don't we? Do you think maybe, as you say, some of the headlines from the mini budget means that things like this have been buried a little bit in terms of the
Yeah,
small
I mean, there's been relatively little on investment zones actually, and for me as somebody who lives and works in Birmingham and has done, you know, throughout her professional career, that's really exciting to me to see, because this is investment in the Midlands. It's investment in Birmingham. It's investment in business. It's looking to bring investment, bring business, bring staff. I mean, there's the difficulty that so many people report in all different types of business about getting the right staff, getting the talent. There is a talent war at the moment. And so actually, you know, the more that we can draw people into Birmingham by giving people opportunities, having exciting businesses, high growth businesses, long-standing businesses that can really make their mark in Birmingham, that's going to be hugely positive for the city. So I mean, I think that's a hugely exciting area, I think.
And talking about investment, finishing us off on a high, you know, we were looking through some of the big headline-grabbing events over the past few days.
Yeah.
We were talking about the legacy of the Commonwealth Games here on the last show. And a statistic that you drew my attention to, this is unheard of, isn't it? We've underspent on the Commonwealth Games, is that right?
Yeah, £60 million. So Birmingham did
do we get to keep that then?
We are getting to keep it, actually. It was announced a few days ago by the government that the 60 million underspend is going to be used by the West Midlands Combined Authority and Birmingham City Council are in discussions with the government about how that's going to be used. But it is going to be used around Birmingham for developing the area in all kinds of ways. So that's hugely exciting. So again, this is all about, this will give a huge boost. Birmingham during the Commonwealth Games was really put on the map. I mean, I felt so proud. It was just wonderful to be in Birmingham, to be able to say, I'm from Birmingham, I work in Birmingham, I live in Birmingham. It was just brilliant, and to have all of these people come into our city from all over the country, all over the world, was just fantastic. So to know that, I don't know how they came in so far under budget. I don't know whether that's completely unheard of in this kind of project, but I'm not.
It feels like it is to me. So you know, not only were we able to celebrate Birmingham, but we're now able to show the rest of the world that actually we know how to run a balance sheet.
Absolutely,
as well, and it is possible to run a sporting event and stick to your costs, isn't it? So they'll give us the next one as well. Do you think?
Well, you never know. You never know. Well, I mean, Birmingham has proved that it can put on big sporting events and other events.
Absolutely.
So we can do it, and we can do it not even on budget, but under budget. So, you know, Birmingham's got a lot to be excited about at the moment, I would say. We'll
clip that little bit out of your interview and send it to the government. Julia, thank you very much for coming in. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So Disabilities is an online lifestyle magazine particularly focused on British Asian and British Asian lifestyle. The Disabilities Truck Art project came as a response to COVID. We knew that communities, especially Black and Asian communities, suffered quite greatly during the COVID period. And what we wanted to do was to help and support them so we could bring art by using the Disabilities Truck Art project to bring art into the community rather than having the communities having to come into the cities. The growth have been great. They've always pointed me in the right direction. They've supported with things like IP. Just having someone there on hand to kind of ask questions to if I need to. they've been great. Andy was really useful. I knew Andy before he started the Growth Hub, and just to have him there, and as I said, to have someone there when you need them and to ask questions to, it's been really great. It's just like having another friend in an organisation that can help you out when you need it. I'd say just reach out, ask any questions. They're really friendly, and all you need to do is just ask any questions you have.
A West Midlands accountancy firm is celebrating after winning at the National 2022 Accounting Excellence Awards. Spark Accountant of Southern Coalfield scooped the Client Transformation Award in the ceremony at London's Tobacco Dock Conference Centre. The award goes to the accountancy firm that best demonstrates how it has made a positive impact on a business, helping to transform it. The construction of a 36,000 square foot, two-story veterinary hospital, which will eventually employ around 100 staff, is well underway in Longbridge. Upon completion, the building will provide a purpose-built facility for IVC Evidentia, which offers veterinary care across 19 countries. The hospital, which is being built by St. Modwen, will feature research, treatment, diagnostic, laboratory, and administrative space with cutting-edge medical equipment, including CT and MRI scanners. Unity Trust Bank has appointed Joshua Meek as Head of Impact and Sustainability, in a new role to help develop the Ethical Bank's impact framework and support its mission to create a better society. Joshua joins the bank from Big Issue Invest, the social investment arm of the Big Issue Group, where he was head of impact. Prior to his work at the Big Issue, Joshua has worked with a number of UK social enterprises, including High Respected Chocolates, Redemption Roasters, and Invincible Cities.
So we previewed it on last month's show, and it is now here. Birmingham Tech Week is happening right now, and Pam Shima, our out and about roving reporter on the ground, has been at Steam House to catch up with some people to find out what's going on.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Birmingham Tech Week. I am delighted to be at the Steam House today, which is a wonderful centre for businesses to grow. It's an incubator that's attached to Birmingham City University. Birmingham Tech are hosting their Tech Growth Summit here today, which is wonderful because we've got so much going on. But right now I am wonderfully excited and delighted to introduce Melissa Snover. So Melissa Snover is the CEO and founder of Nourished 3D and also Remedy. She's an ambassador for entrepreneurship, she's an ambassador for women in tech, and she's also a huge ambassador for Birmingham and the West Midlands. Hello, Melissa.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm
Good,
great.
good.
It's Birmingham Tech
I
Week. Of course I'm great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
it's great to see you.
Okay, amazing to see you as well. So I'm going to start off in the beginning. So those who don't know Melissa, tell me about your business and what made you start up Nourished 3D.
So Nourished is the world's first truly personalized gummy vitamin.
Mm-hmm.
And we make that with proprietary 3D technology that we also create in-house.
Mm-hmm.
We started the business in Digbeth in 2019.
What you could have chosen London, you could have chosen Manchester. So why West Midlands and why Digbeth?
So I think I chose the West Midlands in general because of the huge amount of talent here and the extremely strong infrastructure of education, particularly around additive manufacturing. So in Coventry, I originally was looking at Coventry. They have the Additive Manufacturing Center there. Mm-hmm. But then when I started to look at all of the kind of infrastructure around it, I realized that Birmingham is where most of those universities are centralized. And so within about 10 miles of my first office in Digbeth, there was 5 universities that had higher level, so master degree and higher degree programs in additive manufacturing,
Right.
which was unique in the world, never mind the UK. And so that was a big, big thing that showed me that this region wanted to be involved in the kind of stuff that we wanted to do, and that we would have an amazing, talent pool that was ever growing, always coming new people, people all the time, to be able to support the business's very, very unique and very, very fast growing needs. And it was really a great decision. In addition, Digbeth, where we first started, I started in a single office. I mean, as small as my closet bedroom in my
tiny,
house.
sounds small,
teeny,
right?
weeny, tiny,
Right.
in Scott House of the Custard Factory.
Yeah.
And you know, this cost of that was negligible. I can
Right.
only call it negligible, a couple £100
Right.
a month.
Yeah.
As we grew, we took on our own building, and still it's less than half what I was paying in Manchester for
Right.
even less space. So I think those cost metrics, you know, I know they make headlines, but they actually make pounds and cents, don't they?
Yeah.
And in the end, it allowed us to hire more people, grow our business faster, and not waste money on things that actually have no added value. The size of a warehouse in London will cost me 3 or 4 times more. There's no difference in the warehouses, just where they are.
Yeah.
And I think that the talent pool here, the cost of living, the standard of living, and the community of Digbeth, the startup community
Yes.
of Digbeth, I just found it undeniable, and I could not choose it anywhere else. And I'm so glad that we are still there,
Yeah.
and we will always be there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a real excitement about Digbeth. It's got that kind of vibe,
It
isn't
is
it?
so
Yeah.
cool.
So talent pool, and you're right. There's 5 universities, you know, and you know there's so much happening as well. So and you've made it trendy. You've made it fashionable. Digbeth is fashionable because Melissa Snover is there. So that's great.
that's funny.
So here you're opening another site in West Brom.
That's right.
Tell me about that one. Expanding again.
It's huge, and we just opened it actually. It's 3 times bigger than our first one. It's considerably more high tech, but at the same time, it's less than 5 miles from the first site.
Right.
And so we have people going back and forth between them. We're doing all of our new product development, research and development, and prototyping in Digbeth, and then we're doing our quite fast growing demand around actually manufacturing food
Right.
in West Bromwich. Now, it sounds nuts because I only opened it at the end of June, but we're already looking for our 4th site
That's
because we've
amazing.
just signed a humongous deal
Yeah.
to launch into Europe. And the order is substantial, and we will not have enough room. So we're already looking
Already
for
growing
site
again.
4. Yeah.
Amazing. That's wonderful. So today's the Tech Growth Summit. So there's lots of conversations about scale up.
Yeah.
So I know, a phenomenal accolade to yourself. You was the first female to get the largest seed round of investment. So tell me about that. How was that journey, and how did you go through that process, especially as a woman going through that round of investment? What top tips can you share?
Yeah, I think your seed round is usually the most difficult round because in effect what you're doing is selling an idea. You have nothing to prove, you have nothing to show for it. You might have like a prototype, a really pretty slide deck, and yourself. And so you're asking people to give you a pretty substantial amount of money
Based on
an idea, which
Yeah.
is, you know, that's quite challenging, and you have to win people over, and it takes time, and you can't underestimate how long it will take to find the right people who will believe in your vision and who will back you when you have no proof that you can execute your idea. I guess you have a background, maybe you can prove that you executed in the past, but really
Yeah.
you're basically asking people to take a massive leap of faith.
Yeah.
So that can be really challenging, and I think in the very beginning when I started doing it in
Yeah.
2019, I had no idea about VC at all.
So how did you learn about that then? What did you do?
Podcasts and
Right.
books. So I highly recommend the High Growth Handbook and Venture Deals. Those are 2
Right.
books
Amazing.
available on Amazon. They're constantly updated, and they are invaluable. They help you get around all of the jargon in VC. They help you figure out the different types of VCs, when they're being serious, when they're not.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to get continual resources like Crunchbase so that you can continually assess the opportunities available to you. And the High Growth Handbook is just an incredible resource. I still reread it today. It's
It
an
sounds
amazing,
great.
amazing book.
It sounds like you self-teach yourself a lot. Is that
I
just
do.
your style? Is that a
Yes.
Melissa trait? Yeah.
I think I refuse to accept that I don't know something, so that is a limitation, and therefore I cannot do it.
Stubbornness, or is that?
Ambition, resilience,
Yeah.
perseverance, it depends on how you want to look at it, but it serves me quite well.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't want my limitation in my knowledge to prevent me from doing something that I think is good and important or that I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I think what an incredible day and age we live in,
Yeah, everything's accessible.
you can learn anything that you want, anything. If you are determined enough and you give it the time that it deserves, you can literally learn anything. Information is free.
That's such a positive growth mindset way to look at things. That's amazing. So Melissa, you are a role model. You inspire loads of females and loads of people. I mean, I heard you speak yesterday and people were like, oh my God, in awe. So, and I heard you did a lot during the pandemic to give back. Tell me a little bit about that.
So when COVID hit, our business was in the market for a couple of weeks. I think it was like almost 10 weeks. And so it was a very, very, very fragile time for our company. And when COVID hit, it's hard to remember and imagine it now, but it was a huge shock. And we were being locked down, and it had never happened before. And you're like, what's going on? Now it feels
like
quite
a movie,
normal.
wasn't it? Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it now?
Yeah.
But I think then the biggest danger that we had was that people felt like things were out of control, and that they couldn't do anything. And so people were being told, you can't come outside, you can come outside, you can only go outside once a day. It was very unnerving and very damaging to mental health, because humans like to feel like they can have some sort of control over their destiny and make a difference in their lives, the lives of others. And so one of the things the team and I did almost right away was we converted our MPD lab to make free hand sanitizer for everyone. We gave it to care homes, we gave it to all of our customers, we gave it to anybody who asked.
Amazing.
And we did that for about 6 months. We made about 60,000 bottles. And then we also had that huge issue then at that time where the care home workers and the hospital workers were not able to get PPE.
No,
There was
it
a huge
challenge,
shortage.
wasn't it? Yeah,
Huge
and standard
shortage.
and quality of it as
Oh,
well. Yeah.
it was awful. So we 3D printed custom PPE for people with like basically the massive plexiglass that you could change out with like special molded tops so that it would fit people's heads, because they're not comfortable.
No.
And we made, I don't know exactly the number, we made hundreds of them.
Amazing.
And we gave those away to people who worked in the care system, because it was a really, really scary time. The benefit of it for my business was the team came together in a way.
And purpose.
Oh,
Yeah,
and they
that's-
felt like they could do something that was going to help.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly meaningful, and it made us all very proud.
Yes.
And it brought us together as a team in a way that we could never have done in a different setting. So
that's great.
yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, fact, tell me what you do in your spare time, because you do so much. There's so much going on. Tell me what you do. What does
Spare
Melissa do when
time.
she's like downtime?
Spare
Spare time, she says.
spare time. To my detriment and to my credit, I don't leave very much spare time.
Okay.
It serves me quite well a lot of the time. It also at times can cause burnout. But I love walking my dog. I take
Amazing.
hikes. We
Right.
mountain climb. We do
Amazing.
escape rooms.
Wonderful.
I love
I love
escape
escape
rooms so
rooms.
much.
Wow,
We
okay.
take the kids to the escape rooms, and they are doing problem solving
Yes.
and like full circle design thinking to
Yeah.
try and find the solutions. It's brilliant for them
Yeah.
as well. But I just really enjoy
Right.
it. I love to cook. And it's a really weird one, the cooking thing, because I had COVID in April of 2020, and I lost my sense of smell and
Right.
taste for 2 years. And I thought I would never get it back. I had long COVID. I didn't have any of the other horrible symptoms that you hear about, like the fatigue and the brain fog, but I literally could not taste or smell a single thing
Yeah.
for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was so upsetting to me, because I love to cook. Also, I love the smell of my dog and flowers.
Yeah.
It came back
Yeah.
2 years on the day
Yeah.
to when I got COVID.
Wow.
And now I'm cooking all
Everything.
the time, because I
Amazing.
just feel like, oh my God, what a gift.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. But, at the end of the day, I try and fill the time with something that gives me happiness, but also is helping my family,
Everybody else.
my dog.
Yeah. Well, spreading the love. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been great to hear about your journey, what inspires you, the other work you do, your business, the fantastic role model you are, and a little bit about Melissa's personal side as well. So that's wonderful.
Oh,
so
bless you.
thank you everyone for joining today. Do give us lots of likes, share the podcast, share the show, and we look forward to hearing and seeing from you all soon. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Well, I'm delighted to be joined here in the studio now by Henriette Brukelar, who's the Chief Executive of the Greater Birmingham and Solihull Local Enterprise Partnership. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me,
people
Colin.
that don't know too much about LEPS and your role, just give us a bit of a background.
So my role is quite easy. I'm the Chief Executive. The Greater Birmingham and Solihull Local Enterprise Partnership is a partnership between the private sector, the business community, local authorities, not just Birmingham and Solihull, but actually the functional geography, as we call it, into Staffordshire and Worcestershire, North Worcestershire as well, and further and higher education. And collectively, that partnership has been in existence for 11 years now, and it looks after the inclusive and sustainable economic growth in our region, supporting businesses, investing in infrastructure. A lot of the improvements and transformations you've seen in our town centres, and Birmingham City Centre, for example, was established and made possible with support from the Local Enterprise Partnership. And we do so to drive employment for local people and really improve the quality of life for all that live, work and visit our wonderful city region.
So you talk to then and network with a pretty wide range of people, don't you? So you get a fairly good idea about how people are feeling. In Birmingham
Absolutely,
at the moment. So
yes.
How are they feeling at the moment, do you think?
So the Commonwealth Games, and I can't go anywhere without mentioning the Commonwealth Games, was such a tremendous success. And if we could bottle the civic pride and the sheer joy that people feel about this fantastic place in the world, and you might be able to notice in my accent that I wasn't born here.
You don't sound
I'm
like a local.
adopted. No, I've tried desperately to sound like a local, but I'm failing. But I've been here 22 years. I've seen this city transform, and I'm so proud of this place and the diversity and the way our communities kind of support each other. And they did so through the pandemic, and goodness, we shone on a global stage throughout the Commonwealth Games. So I think, although of course people are worried about the cost of living crisis, we are as a community standing together to support each other through what's going to be quite a challenging autumn and winter ahead.
We were talking a little bit earlier in the show about some of the spin-offs from the cost of living situation and the mini budget that we had a couple of weeks ago. How important is it from your point of view to be able to offer free support to local businesses, and do you think they understand what is available for free?
It's so important. If you are the owner or manager of a business, you probably know what the areas are that you need support in. But to find out exactly what support you need and where you might go to get it is really time consuming and can be very costly and therefore quite difficult for businesses to do. What we offer is one place where businesses can come and get that support with finding out what it is they need, which of course also depends on the stage of their life. Are they a startup business? Are they just about to scale up? Are they already matured? And do they maybe want to enter into new markets, for example? So we help them find out where are you in that journey and what is it you need, and then where can you go and get it. And we've done that for over a decade now. We're really tried and tested and trusted by local businesses. Our advisors know the local business community, and in the last 12 months alone, we supported over 1,700 businesses with over 8,000 hours of support.
Which is serious numbers, isn't it? And
Serious
how would that
numbers.
support be delivered? Is it some of that one-on-one? Would some of that be virtual? Is it networking groups? How does
It's
it
a
work?
mix. As you might imagine, during COVID, it all went to virtual meetings, and that worked really well. I think, as many organisations found, our staff really stepped up to the plate, as did our businesses, in terms of finding new and creative ways of supporting the business community. And in fact, we very quickly diverted £3 million towards supporting businesses throughout the pandemic, and our Pivot and Prosper programme, which particularly helped businesses pivot new business models to help them thrive on the back of the pandemic, not just survive, has been independently evaluated and has been found to have generated £15 of return for every pound we invested. So as a taxpayer, that's really good good to see. Of course, now we're delighted to go back to face-to-face meetings. And in fact, our annual general meeting is coming up, and that's accompanied by a Better Your Business event, which is taking place in the fabulous Steam House facility, the new Birmingham City University Innovation Centre, on the 17th of November. And I'd urge anyone with an interest in improving their business to sign up.
We have our roving reporter Pam at the Steam House as we speak for Birmingham Tech Week, so we're able to see a little bit of that on the show.
Fantastic.
Do you want to talk in a little bit more detail about some of the specific support then that's available for businesses? You've mentioned maybe COVID support packages, but what are the particular areas? Is there international trade? Is there, I mean, what kind of things?
Yes, so when businesses come to us, we, as I said, we can offer a free place for them to go and explore what support they need, and we can do so because we are thankfully in receipt of European funding until the middle of next year to do that free of charge. So we talk businesses and take them through a diagnostic, and then the type of support they need, or they want, depending on their need, could be access to finance. To date, we've supported 28 companies securing in the region of £6.5 million finance, often very small businesses, and we've got 11 million in the pipeline. It could be support with recognising the value of their intellectual property. We've got a lot of creativity and inventiveness in the region. There's a value to that. Businesses need to understand that value and also how to protect that value, particularly if they trade and deal with overseas markets as well. There's things like our Clean Growth Programme. Of course, energy prices and energy consumptions is right up there for all of us, including businesses. So we run a grant programme that helps businesses invest in energy reduction, be it LED lighting, insulation, be it solar panels, programmable heating and so on, because we know that's such a concern. And then when it comes to things like export support, innovation support, even startup support, there's also a really rich ecosystem of business support in the region that we refer to. And of course, a lot of our local authorities, our Chamber of Commerce, our universities run really valuable programs, and we do work in partnership with all of them. We see ourselves as a provider, but also really as a signpost there.
And we'll be meeting a couple of the case studies that you've actually worked with very shortly as well
On the
to
skills
build on that
agenda.
from a skills point of view, absolutely. What about looking to the future then? I mean, we've got local enterprise partnerships integrating with combined authority. There's lots of change and sort of jostling for position. How do you think the business support profile in Birmingham is going to look in the coming months?
I think there's still a lot to be resolved in terms of how business support will take shape in years to come. I know the Growth Hub in Greater Birmingham and Solihull will continue to run till the end of December 2023, so that's really good news for local businesses. What happens after that definitely needs looking at different funding streams. So the UK Shared Prosperity Fund has come in to replace European funding, really. But how that works in practice, there's quite a bit still to be resolved. What I am really confident about is that all stakeholders, including the combined authority, the local authorities, and ourselves, are very acutely aware of the need to ensure that progression and transition is seamless for the businesses that need us right now more than ever.
And have you got a good dialogue and a collaborative spirit between the various organisations in Birmingham?
Absolutely. Not a week goes by without meetings taking place on how to best shape that.
Good job we can get out and about again then, isn't it? Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in and giving us a taste. You'll come back and see us sometime soon, won't you?
I believe I will, yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Henriette. And as I said, we'll be finding out a little bit more, particularly from the skills debate, when we have a panel coming up in a few minutes' time.
Hi there. So welcome to this next edition of the Joel Blake Business Show here on bbtv.live. I'm your host, Joel Blake, and I'm here to talk about big business. Now, today's episode is going to be fantastic in many, many different ways because we've got a fantastic panel of experts, leaders in their own right. And so let's get to it. And I firstly want to introduce Anne-Marie Hunt. So Anne is the head of corporate banking for West Midlands at the NatWest Group. We have Tim Davis. He's the regional head of primary markets for the London Stock Exchange Group. And last but certainly not least, we have Chris Romans, partner for the EY practice and Midlands tax and law lead for EY. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. How are you all?
Very well. That's good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, big business, it's a big subject at the moment. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the economy. There's a lot going on regionally. And we all know that access to finance is a genuine challenge for businesses who are in this ambitious and growth phase of their organisation, no matter of the size. But today we really want to talk about high growth businesses and those with that high growth potential. And so what we really want to explore today is, what are financial organisations looking for when they're looking to support businesses? What do organisations themselves need to do to innovate? And how do we ensure that there's fair financial inclusion for all? And those are the things we really want to talk about today, because one thing's about talking about the issues and the problems that we all know we're all facing as the UK PLC at large. But ultimately, the businesses that we all support are the ones that are really going to drive growth. So I'd like to come to yourself first, Anne-Marie, with a bit of an opening question, really, in that, given the economic impact, what do you look for as an organisation when you're looking to prepare and support a business to leverage finance for growth?
Well, I think it's very challenging for businesses at the moment. We all know that. So the so-called mini budget, I think, has sent a lot of shockwaves. But there's a lot of support for growing entrepreneurial businesses. And I think those businesses will continue to thrive. So I would encourage those people to be dynamic in their thinking and don't just resource traditional sources of lending. Think about looking at different options, speak to different people, and just also think about chemistry. Who's the right person for you? So you're not just looking for somebody to lend you money, you're looking for a partner and somebody who can support you and work with you and be a part of your business. I think that's more about the entrepreneur rather than what the bank is looking for, because they're the important people, in my opinion. So look beyond traditional banks. So I'm a non-executive director on the LEP board, and I would encourage people to think about organisations such as the LEP, networking opportunities, advice, support that they can give you. So one of the problems I think high growth businesses find is that they have the potential, they want to scale up, but quite often they're not surrounded by the right people, and therefore they don't reach their true potential.
And that's a really good point, Anne-Marie, because I think often we forget that entrepreneurs have the responsibility for their own success, ultimately. Yet, and as an entrepreneur myself, you get so caught into what you're trying to do to achieve. You sometimes forget that it's not about doing it by yourself. You do need that support. And I think, Chris, in terms of what EY have been doing for many years in the region, it would be good to kind of get an idea of what you're seeing as some of those regional challenges for those ambitious organisations like Anne-Marie has described, who want to get on, who want to succeed, but might not feel they can get the support that they need. So what are the challenges that you see?
Yeah, I suppose the challenges are many. I think that Anne-Marie's already said the kind of the things that are out there at the moment in the economic world. We've had COVID, we've had a war, we've had high inflation, we've got increasing interest rates. So we're seeing a whole lot of things that a lot of entrepreneurs just haven't seen before. Those ones. We had a really good talk the other week by Sir Peter Rigby, who's lived through recessions, etc., and has got that experience. But a lot of new entrepreneurs haven't necessarily got that experience. And one of the key things that we like to do as Entrepreneur of the Year programme is help those newer entrepreneurs with advice from more experienced entrepreneurs and putting the people together to help them go through some of those trickier times. Because the uncertainty that's out there is really difficult to predict what it's going to be and what the impact on the business is, and planning for those uncertain moments coming through. Anne-Marie, again, it was already mentioned the recent mini budget, which didn't necessarily help with that kind of certainty in the markets or anything. So there's been a bit of a U-turn, which has helped. But key to businesses, my specialist subject is tax, and key to businesses on that side is certainty of tax. So what tax will they be paying if they make an investment decision now, which may involve 2, 3, 5-year plan? What will their outcome be from a tax point of view is key to that. The other area, I suppose, is talent. Key element is attracting the talent, and I think we are blessed in Birmingham of having a very young, diverse population, a very highly skilled number of great universities on our patch. And the key is kind of nurturing that talent into and keeping them in the region, not getting them pulled into London or elsewhere.
Which, again, is a great point. And I will come back to that tax issue, because obviously it is a burning issue for all of us at this time. But I'm sure there might be a positive way in which businesses can start looking at tax, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But Tim, I'd like to come to yourself, because Chris just alluded to this kind of regional support.
Yeah.
But the London Stock Exchange Group, they're seeing this at a whole different level to a degree. And so what are you seeing in a similar way in terms of some of those challenges for businesses?
Okay.
And I guess what part is the London Stock Exchange Group playing in trying to help businesses at that level?
So first and foremost, I think we should address the reality, which is that we know where the economy is at the moment. We know that the performance and the attitude, if you like, of the stock market broadly reflects that. So at the moment, the market is quite listless. In common with venture capital and private equity, we're also seeing investors who may well be sitting on significant amounts of cash, but there are also a lot of them sitting on their hands. And that's because they're waiting to see how things turn. Now, I've worked in and around the stock market for the best part of 30 years, and I can tell you that it will come back. It's a question of when. But I think the first thing we need is a more settled UK economic environment, and also more joined-up policy and thinking. I think as and when that returns, and as and when the promised numbers start coming through, then investors will also start to relax a little. I think the second thing is that this point about there being a lot of capital out there, there is. And there are ever-growing nooks and crannies of new types of capital available for the right companies. And I say the right companies because the flip side of the current situation is that, yes, there's a lot of cash, but investors who may be minded to do things, it's a buyer's market. So it's very difficult for companies too. But I think I look across all of the private companies that I talk to, and some I've known over many years, from when they were private and now public, where there is a will, there is a way. And what investors want over and over again is give me or show me the smart, able, ambitious people with businesses that require growth capital, and hopefully, or 9 times out of 10, they'll find a way of getting it.
You say that, Tim, and I do get that, but I also think that there's a challenge to a degree for the organisations to understand maybe some of the journeys of some of those business owners too.
And to address your other point about what are we doing to help, I think first and foremost is that we have a team that covers the UK, which I'm just one part, so I cover Wales, Midlands, East Anglia, and have various other responsibilities as well. My job is to be available for companies that are anything from the mildly curious about, can you explain to me this whole IPO thing? How does it work? What's an IPO? Because a long time ago, I spent some time raising money for private companies, and the number of, just about every business plan that came in, it was trade sale or IPO in 3 years. You ask the question, do you know what an IPO is? And they sort of, no. So
would you say there's an education
Oh, absolutely.
issue
Huge. No, it's a huge education
businesses?
opportunity for us, because the thing about the UK, and using non-technical terms, we are a great nation of, or a great archipelago of entrepreneurs and starter-uppers of businesses. And the reality is that whichever way you look at it, there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of healthcare, potentially very high growth businesses. So it's incumbent on not just me, but also colleagues around the table and other industries to identify and engage with as many of these businesses as possible. Partly the education piece, but partly also finding the good businesses, and in my case, finding the ones who are more than mildly curious about the IPO option.
So, going back to what you said earlier, Chris, around kind of the work of EY and the entrepreneur program in particular, and that kind of peer-to-peer type of structure that you put in. Have you seen the transferring of education working well in terms of entrepreneurs understanding what they can do to grow?
Yeah, it's certainly the feedback we get from the entrepreneurs who kind of take part in the program. There's an award, and it's great that somebody wins a nice shiny thing to put on their mantelpiece. But actually, they come into it as part of the community. The community piece of it, and the learning piece, is really where they get the most from it. We run a retreat for all our effectively finalists from across the UK. We get them together in a nice country park, and so we had, I think, about 80 of them together for a retreat for a whole day of various kind of talks and presentations. And one of them we did have on finance, and it was a really interesting one. We had a panel of entrepreneurs who've been through that journey of private to PE and through to IPO, and somebody from a private equity house, and they actually talked about the journey and the pros and cons through, and that education piece, because people don't really understand, and it's really important to hear it from somebody who's been through that journey.
But then isn't that biased in some regard, because what you've got then is a peer group of entrepreneurs who are like-minded? How do entrepreneurs who want to be part of that link in? How do they become part of that set, so to speak, because they might not have the experience, they might not have the network, they might not have the opportunity?
It's a combination of we collectively find them, or they find us, or we're introduced to them by third parties. I think a really, really important point to make is that IPO is often cited as the goal for a lot of businesses, regardless of how much they actually understand about it. IPO is not a commodity product. It's for the few, not the many. You use whatever cliche you like. Increasingly, it's right for a smaller number of businesses, but the numbers that come to market, certainly in the UK, are, broadly speaking, better businesses, more developed businesses, even if they are actually relatively early stage and relatively lowly valued. And the better, what makes them stand out again is the people, the plan, their whole approach to business and finance and so on and so forth.
But then you must see this at various levels, Anne-Marie, in terms of the acceleration programme that West Group provide. I believe it's 14 hubs now across the UK, which are incubating and providing support for businesses. And I guess from many, those who just have an idea, to some of the businesses that maybe Chris and Tim have described in terms of more established, more ambitious businesses. But what are are there any findings or any kind of statistics that you might have around the type of support you provide there? Because I think it'd be good for maybe our audience to have an understanding of what that looks like.
So first of all, I think your point about growth and where an entrepreneur sits is really important. So I'd read our Springboard to Recovery report, and I was quite surprised that 15% of corporates were mid-size or SME only 5 years ago. So those people, I guess, will find that most of their promise is unrealised because they won't be surrounding themselves with the right people. So I feel we have a responsibility to find those people and make sure they're in the right place and looked after in the right way. But the accelerator hubs, I think, are really important. So there's one in the West Midlands, of course, and they've supported 3,500 businesses in very recent times, 198 million in total investments. So I think it's about journey end to end. So recognising and supporting those people at the start of their journey, but then moving them through, and then possibly to my team with the bespoke support to then manage them to the other side of the relationship.
Okay, well, I mean that's a fantastic example of support, and obviously you talked about your work, Chris, and talked about the work yourself, Tim. I think one of the things that we often understand within the region is the fact that we've got our level of diversity in all shapes and forms of the word. And that itself creates a real innovative opportunity to showcase how our region can help be more competitive, help businesses to be more competitive here and abroad. But how do we ensure financial inclusion within that? Because many of the businesses that we have, whether it's from local communities right through to large organisations, there's a level of diversity within all that whole of that chain that requires different levels of support. And I know you mentioned some of the work that you're doing, Tim. I know you talked about the LEP as well, Anne-Marie, but one of the things I've seen as a challenge in my own career in the region has been the fact that many of the business support organisations don't have enough understanding of the needs of all the different diverse groups, and I mean that right across the board. Then on top of that, you've got the challenge of intersectionality within those groups. So it might be a female business owner from an ethnic minority group who might have a disability, who might identify herself as lesbian or gay in that regard. So there's different complex needs that are not always looked at from the organisations that they're trying to get business support from. How do you feel organisations can start to open up themselves to increase the level of understanding to ensure, A, financial inclusion works better in the region, but two, it enables to unleash this potential that we have through our diversity in the region? How do you feel we could start to do some of that?
It is a problem. So listened to a presentation recently, and something that is quite sad to hear, that there's such a large proportion of entrepreneurs who account for a huge percentage of entrepreneurs, but actually they're the least likely to come forward and seek support.
Yeah, that's
quite private, quite self-sufficient, and then are they truly fulfilling their potential? And that's quite disappointing to think that those people aren't achieving their potential. But for me, I think that the challenge starts with us. I think that's something we need to work on. We need to make sure that our people are challenging and helping people, that we've got the right people in the right seats, that they know how to speak to a range of people, range of sectors. So I think education for companies such as us, such as ours, is really important.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, London Stock Exchange Group is a FTSE 100 company in its own right, and we are, I won't say a trailblazer, but as an organisation, we are totally transparent, and we are very, very hot on all the acronyms: ESG, environmental, societal and governmental, and also diversity and inclusion. But it's not just because we want to be a diligent and good employer and trendsetter. It's because a lot of the institutions in the broad sense that we deal with, and that's everything from regulators through to the retail banks, you name it, we deal with them. But also from the point of view of the stock market that we're talking about today, is that the institutional investors who support that market, and bearing in mind the capital pool is around £5.2 trillion, so it's a lot of investors and a lot of money. Increasingly, they too are very, very keen on understanding what existing listed and companies coming to the market by way of IPO, what their policies are on ESG, D&I, and so on and so forth. Specifically, not making sure that when it comes to the environment, it's not the so-called greenwashing. It's not, you've got a statement, prove to me you're actually enacting it.
I want to see
and
numbers,
how it
I want to
works.
see stats, I want to see evidence, I want to see impact.
So I think that's very, very important. But your point specifically, Joel, about financial inclusion, again, it's not just us. We're in the vanguard of it, but also the Financial Conduct Authority is in a sense leading the charge in parallel with the British government. All have made plain that we live in an age where inclusion of the retail investor within the wider stock market, if you like, and the ability for private investors, retail investors, to buy shares on the same terms as the institutional investors who typically support the IPOs. There's been wholesale change there in the last couple of years. And again, we're in the vanguard of that. And to help us on our way, we bought, in fact, we've done 2 rounds of financing with them, with a fintech called Primary Bid. And essentially it's an app. And if you're signed up with them, you can press a button on your phone and you can buy shares in an offer. That simple.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that is a huge, huge step forward. And similarly, one of the responsibilities of companies when they list or are already listed is to make sure that they are treating, absolutely primary responsibility, to make sure they are treating all shareholders and all employees equally.
Do you see that mindset, Chris, as well in the work that you're doing with high growth entrepreneurs in terms of that kind of innovative approaches to tackling financial inclusion?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I kind of think, entrepreneurs, their business is almost is a bit of them, and so therefore, most entrepreneurs, it's the family of the people who work for them, and they really want to do what's right for their people and society and the local economy. So that's really important. But just picking up on one of your points, and what you mentioned, fulfilling people's potential, it's absolutely key, and that's the key drive that I always think about. Making sure people have got that access to fulfil their potential. And I think one of the key things I think we don't do well enough as a country is celebrate entrepreneurs and the great that they do for our country. We almost knock them. They almost, they're to be knocked because they're rich.
Absolutely. If you fail, it's almost like a black mark against you.
Rather than what they do is ultimately, if it wasn't for entrepreneurs, people wouldn't have jobs, we wouldn't have wealth. They are the wealth creators, and we should be, celebrating the great that they do. And we have such great role models. You are one of the great role models locally, Joel. It's something to make you blush. Someone like Ben Francis. Again, kids see that story of delivering pizzas part-time when trying to build a business and where he's gone to now. Amazing. That's what you want people to aspire to say, yeah, I can do that.
But I think you make a really great point because, especially with Ben and I guess the current generation of entrepreneurs who arguably have almost thrown the rule book away and said we're doing this in our own way, in our own terms, and they're bringing that mindset into the types of innovations they're bringing into their ideas and seeing that manifest. In, Jim Sharp, perfect example of that. But where does the future go for the organisations who are going to be having to support these types of young people, younger entrepreneurs, and indeed older entrepreneurs who are adopting some of the new, I guess, more modern ways of doing business, being more digitally enabled in order to grow their business? How do we have the organisations themselves catch up? I mean, I know you've given some great examples of that, but I think as time goes on, it's only going to get faster. The innovation's only going to become a lot more scalable. It's going to become quicker. There's going to be more diverse founders trying to bring more diverse ideas. Do we really think the UK is prepared to catch up?
Well, I think we need to be. So there was something I jotted down that I wanted to highlight. So nationally, whilst only 1% of companies considered high growth, considered high growth, they employ 10% of the workforce and generate 25% of the turnover.
Wow.
So it really makes you think. And we have a high growth part of the bank that's very specific, and that's all about having making sure we've identified the businesses, leading them through, having them in the right place, and then surrounding them with the right sort of products and help. And I think that's essential, because I think you make a really valid point. We can't just do what we've always done and expect that to be fit for purpose, because it won't be.
And I ask a question because partly when I talk to counterparts abroad and they're talking about innovation and the pace of change, UK is doing great, but we can do so much better because we already have the tools at our disposal. We do have an entrepreneurial culture, but sometimes often restricted because of the culture that we place upon that culture, i.e. if you fail, you're not as good. Go to the US, how many times have you failed? What have you learned? How have you implemented that learning?
But also I think you've got to be balanced about it, because I see things through a public company lens, and I look at how the valuations on NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange are sort of, compared to the real world valuations that exist on our markets in London, they are, shall we say, fanciful. And I feel for the finance director who has to deliver those numbers. I really do. But on a serious note, what we've seen more recently with the complete fall off or falling away of the risk capital that was plentiful up until about 6-9 months ago in the US, we've seen the valuations of businesses which floated last year in the US absolutely tank.
Okay.
Here, yes, some are down, but actually by nowhere near as much.
Okay, so are you saying that we're in a better position?
We
generally?
are in the real world valuation
In the
territory.
real world valuation terms.
Yeah. And investors, certainly again in the public markets, how I see life, investors who support the public market will pay, at the outset, they'll pay a fair price for a good proposition. And then the other mindset with the UK institutional investor, particularly with the growth companies on our AIM market, is that they come into a lot of those businesses with a full expectation of following their money, so supporting successive fundraisers for acquisitions or working capital to expand the base, whatever it is. And I was actually looking, it's an interesting point this, I was looking at, again, our AIM market, which started life in 1995, 4,000 odd companies been through it, 850 on there at the moment. 48 billion has been raised at IPO and a further 84 by way of follow-ons post-IPO. And in the UK, it's 65% of the companies. Sorry, 65% of the companies are UK. So you think of that capital being, if you like, drip-fed into the national economy. It's enormous.
It's a good point. And Anne-Marie's already mentioned it. The different sources of the capital that are out there now, and you kind of think, 20 or 30 years ago, without technology in the world as it is, it was really hard to raise capital. You kind of needed wealth to build a business, your own personal wealth. Now, with technology, you can can build a business in your bedroom to start with. But the access to different sorts of finance, but also the entrepreneurial finance, we're seeing more and more of the entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial families having funds to invest in new entrepreneurs. So if you take some of the local families, the Richardsons, the Rigbys, the Samworth, they've all got funds that they are reinvesting in younger entrepreneurs, new businesses. And also, a lot of the entrepreneurs who are exiting their businesses are exiting them so much younger because they built them up and sold them by the time they're 30. And what they do for the rest of their life, they want to, they love business and they want to, naturally, you know, it's almost a virtuous circle. They want to go and help the next business, invest in the next business, and they bring the expertise, the experience and the finance. You know, it's really good and healthy, this virtuous circle.
That's a really good point, actually. We don't often talk about that network effect, do we, of the kind of giving back and I guess the contribution socially and economically that entrepreneurs make when they've got to that point of success, whatever success looks like to them. But just going back to the kind of tax point from earlier as well, because the contributions that entrepreneurs make, obviously in terms of tax is a huge contribution too. But the tax burden on the economy and the tax burden on businesses is one that, would you say, is going to be even more challenging as time goes on? Or do you think from a business point of view, using tax could be done in a much more effective way?
It's interesting because off the back of the mini budget, there was a whole kind of market panic about the government finances. But in 21-22, tax was at the highest percentage of GDP than it's been for a long, long time. It was at 30%. Total tax revenue is about 700 billion pounds. So. And also, there's fiscal drag because all the thresholds are being frozen and there's inflation. So actually, the tax take hasn't gone down that much. So, you know, I do think we've got to be very careful about over-taxing our entrepreneurs and our companies. We want people to invest. We want the economy to grow. And you've got to focus the tax incentives in the right way. And I think the kind of innovation zones that they're talking about, where effectively there will be lower tax rates in certain zones around the country. I think 38 authorities have already applied for this, including the West Midlands Combined Authority, where you'll have a zone where you will have no business rates. There will be no SDLT on purchasing property to develop either to residential or commercial, relaxed planning rules, lower NIC rates, employers' rates up to £50,000. So those kind of focus that investment into a region and area is great because it helps with levelling up. It also potentially brings that kind of conglomeration effect where you bring businesses together in a place and they just bounce off each other. It's how the Industrial Revolution started in the first place. Bringing great people and people together, and it's a virtuous circle.
Well, it strikes me that we're in a time where another revolution is. I hold my thought actually. It's not yet taking place, but it's about to, in relation to the way in which the next wave of digital technologies, the next wave of innovation is going to affect all markets, all sectors, all types of businesses. And I guess it's the innovators who are prepared for that are the ones who are going to be the winners. But also, and more importantly, should also leave the door open for the next generation to follow them, because they're going to come with another revolution and so forth. And I think Birmingham and the Midlands region has an opportunity to set that standard and set that blueprint. As you said, the Industrial Revolution, without us, look what's happened in the world, and we kick-started that. So what's the next wave of kickstart for us? And I think, from what I've heard today and from your all expertises and your experiences, the opportunity is here, but there's education on both sides of the fence that's needed in order to recognise those opportunities, to realise the value of those opportunities, and then to create the legacies that we all want to leave through the work that we all do. And I just think for the audiences that I've heard today, I'm sure you've heard a real stimulating conversation that's really got giving you food for thought. And if it hasn't, you need to kind of think about what you've heard today and start thinking about it in that way, because the reality is that change is only going to come from the entrepreneurs who are willing to take the risk, but also the organisations who are working with those entrepreneurs who are willing to take risks too. And it's the collaborative effect of that that's going to create change. And so what I'd like to ask you all is just think about a final thought, really, that you could just share with our viewers based on your view on big finance. And so the question very simply for me is, what does big finance mean to you, is the question. But also, what's the final thought?
So final thought, there's no sales pitch. I think I almost think this is separate to who I work for, and that it's NatWest. For me, it's surround yourself with the right people. Think more broadly about what help you need. Seek help out there. There's a lot of people who just want to help. And also think about chemistry. Think about who you connect with. Surround yourself with the right people. And I just think that we're just evolving so quickly. If I think back 20 years to the way that I did this job or a similar job. It's just changed completely. So I think it's a lot more dynamic. We're thinking about some of these things we've talked about today. We're trying to help people in different ways. We're forward-looking, and I think there's lots more ways that entrepreneurs can be supported in lots of different ways. So just be curious, seek help, network, and that would be my plea really. So as I say, that's not a NatWest pitch. That's a personal view. But if you do want some general help, you can search on NatWest Accelerator, and you can search on NatWest High Growth Businesses, and I think there's some useful, helpful information on there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Tim.
I'm having to rethink what I was going to say because Anne-Marie used the exact word. Be curious. No, but be curious definitely applies, and that's at all levels and all stages of development for entrepreneurs and also for businesses. I think I think we've all touched on this point about different pools of capital for different types of businesses, different stages of development, and so on. There is money out there. So be curious from the entrepreneur perspective. Ask lots of questions and don't be afraid to knock on people's doors. From the professional world, there is an enormous amount of support which is available for nothing. And when I talk about support, informal advice, explanations as to how things work, where they may look, and so on and so forth. You know, we've all come up through our careers. We've all dealt with companies at very early stages, and I think it's a very important part. A couple of things just to share with you, if I may, about London Stock Exchange. One is that we have a mantra internally, which is that we want businesses to start here, grow here, and stay here. And when we talk about here, we mean UK. And part and parcel of our own evolution, and also what does our business look like for the next generation, it's in the public domain. We are in the process of launching a market for private company capital raising as well. So taking our, he says, acknowledged skills in running public markets, but applying it to private companies, so companies seeking capital on one side, funders on the other, if you like, equity funders. And that is, it's under development at the moment, and hopefully will be launched over the next 6-9 months.
You should watch this space then. Sounds really good.
I'll come back and tell you about it.
And last but again, certainly not least, Chris, what's your kind of final thought around big finance for you?
Yeah, I've talked about it before. I think we are in a current golden age for kind of entrepreneurs and growing businesses. It is tough at the moment. We're in this point in the economic cycle where it's tough, but with the different sources of finance there are, the ability to scale a business so quickly through technology on a global basis. There's huge opportunities for people to grow businesses, but I think it comes back to your point, is that financial inclusion and making sure we spot every single great entrepreneur there is in the UK and help them build that business so that they can fulfill that opportunity and grow it in the UK, to create wealth in the UK, to create jobs in the UK, and not to miss that great idea, or for that idea to be bought by a US company and taken somewhere else.
Fantastic. Well, look, always great to end on an optimistic point, and so thank you all for your time this afternoon. And for all those who watched today's episode, thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Entrepreneurship is thriving in Birmingham, and today I'm going to be speaking to a remarkable entrepreneur who truly represents the city. I'm speaking today to Simon Washbrook, the founder and CEO of Popcorn CRM. Simon, welcome to the show.
Davies, thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it as well. I'm excited about learning about Popcorn CRM, but first of all, let's get into your journey. How did you become an entrepreneur?
Okay, so it's kind of a bit of a long journey, because the entrepreneurial journey, as most people who are going through it know, it doesn't happen overnight. It's kind of the belief that it does, but it's a lot of hard work. So I guess if I go back to where I started, really, I went to uni, went down to fancy London Village, and I was studying fashion and textiles down there. And in my second year, I'd kind of got to the point of going, you know what, this really isn't for me. Just not the world, isn't suited for me. And I was starting to weigh up, what do I want to be doing with my life? they started introducing all the marketing modules. And I guess it was the proverbial light bulb moment for what happened with me. Because I kind of going, well, this is brilliant. I've always been fascinated with what motivates people, what makes people engage, and this is talking all about it. So I finished my degree and then went on to do a master's back up here in Birmingham, and I just focused on the marketing side. So I got my first role then working for a brilliant brand, called Anglepoise Lamps, and it's a global brand. The king or the queen has one on their desk, but it was a tiny little company over in Redditch, and I loved it. I got involved in so many different things. I was building websites for them, I was doing advertising, I was doing everything, and I got my hands dirty. I loved it. But I made with hindsight, not the best decision. I kind of decided I wanted to go down that corporate. I wanted the shiny suit and the packages and all that sort of stuff that comes with big companies.
We want to have it all sometimes.
It's nice. And I worked my way up to the dizzy heights of BMW Group, and what I realised at that point was, what I loved about my first job at Anglepoise was I got involved in so many different things because it was a small company. I got to make real change and see the difference it made. So, and I was hands-on about doing it all, and what I was doing over at corporate, it wasn't so much. It felt very removed and all the politics and all that stuff. So I made the scary decision to kind of step away from it all at that point. And I set myself up as a marketing consultant. So working specifically with small businesses to kind of satisfy that need I had.
And starting with what you know.
Exactly, make a difference. And so that's how it kind of started off. But what I realised quite rapidly, which was different from the corporate world, every single thing a small business does around marketing, any activity any small business owner does, is because they want to drive sales.
Interesting.
And then every single what they're doing then, all their activities, whether that was email marketing, whether it was events, whether it was whatever it was, didn't join up with sales. All these were standalone exercises. And so when I was working as a marketing consultant, I was saying to people, well, we need to join this up, we need to get this information. And I started producing loads of spreadsheets and doing all this stuff, which got great results. But I just really didn't enjoy it. I'm not a spreadsheet person at all.
They're not pretty.
Yeah, says the man who's gone into data. But so I started doing all that work and getting this going, and I realised we'd get some really good results from it all. And after a bit, I thought I had to make a decision. Do I want to continue making a difference, or do I make myself happy? And I thought, well, there's got to be a compromise. So that's when I thought, you know what, I need to build my own platform that ties all of the essential bits of marketing data together. So a small business owner can kind of go, that's who I call, when I call them, and I know why I'm calling them. So it gave them that bigger picture. So that would have been probably about 9 years ago. I came up with the idea for Popcorn. And we started off in true entrepreneurial style, not having a clue what I was doing around software development. So we contracted a developer to start doing the work, and I went on a very rapid learning curve about dealing with developers and all that learning.
That's what happens with us entrepreneurs, isn't it? Where we get into this process of, this is the idea I want to build out, and we just begin to learn and educate ourselves through the journey, and just maturing in that mode of entrepreneurship along the journey.
Yeah,
that's been your experience, hasn't it?
Very much so, and it's the learning that you don't think you're going to have to learn. So it's learning how to talk to different people. For instance, I had to learn how to produce mock-ups for and wireframes for things. Where when I originally started out, I was going, I'll just have this idea, and I'll explain it, and then it'll magically appear there, and pff, it's there. No way. So you kind of go through all of that and all these little things and this massive roller coaster you're going through, but we got the prototype delivered. I ended up working with some great companies and we got some good feedback from it. And we launched version 1 of the platform, and this was probably about 5 years ago-ish. And that started to take off quite nicely. And what we did in version 1 is we kind of just reaffirmed the ideas of the prototype and tidied it all up.
And just to be clear, so version 1 of the platform was what? It was a CRM software?
That's an interesting question. So yes and no. I didn't realise it was at this time. So
what were you calling it then?
I was calling it Popcorn. He avoids. That was one of my biggest learnings I had, was when I set up, I knew I wanted all these sort of essential elements to tie together, but I hadn't had the experience of working with as many small businesses in this world. So I went off on this journey, and what I realised about 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago, was that what we were pitching Popcorn as wasn't what people were using it as. So I was kind of talking about this, and I was finding the sales journey really, really hard, and people were struggling to understand what we did. But the people that got it absolutely loved it. And so it was about 3 years ago, I was kind of chatting away to somebody, and I was going, I'm talking about what we did, and they went, you don't do that. And you do, you don't. And it was the whole Chuckle Brothers moment went on there. And then I was kind of going, well, so tell me, what is it I do? And he went, your lead management software, your CRM lead management software. And it was that whole, to go back to it, that light bulb moment when I went, yes. And that was the point. I kind of parked everything I believed and reviewed it all. So I took it back to all of the customers that were getting amazing results and loving the platform, and just went back to them with a few simple questions which were based around of, tell me what you love about this platform.
And that is remarkable, because for us entrepreneurs, we tend to start with the idea of what I want to see. But very quickly we learn that true successful businesses are based on what the customers see, not necessarily what we see. So you went on this journey, you revamped it, because I was at the launch of Popcorn. Should I call it 2.0?
Yeah,
that was a fantastic launch. So tell us about the business today. So Popcorn today, what is it, and how would you describe it?
Okay, so last Tuesday we launched the platform, and big fanfares. It was brilliant. Andy Street came along and he sort of really promoted us. And I'm going to get back to your point. I'm not doing a whole political thing here and avoiding the question, but he came along and he kind of summed up what I've just talked about perfectly. He kind of said it's great to see that we've identified a niche of what small businesses need and then built something perfectly for it. And that's exactly what we've done. We've kind of picked up what Popcorn version 1 was and refined it down to be even simpler, made all the processes effective, and just put the essential bits in there that small business needs so they can focus on what they're doing. So what we are now, to answer your question, is we are a CRM and prospect management tool. So what that means is we kind of bring all your conversations, all your prospecting, whether that's a query you have on social media, whether it's a conversation down the pub or a formal, can you send me a quote on this, right from the early stage of the conversation, we visualize that whole process so you can see everything that's going on, and then give you the essential tools so you can manage, nurture and convert them all in one place, and then we'll tell you who's ready to buy and why.
I think that's truly remarkable, because it does eventually tie back into what you originally set out to do. You know, bringing that connection together, simple tool that connects all the different strands of businesses that small businesses tend to worry about. So that's truly remarkable. And I think small businesses should use it. Speaking of which, that launch where you had Industry was held at the NatWest Accelerator, and I know that you've done a bit of things with the NatWest Accelerator. So there's NatWest, there's the mayor at your launch. What is it about this city that made you say, you know what, I'm going to set up my business here and I'm going to make it work here?
I think Birmingham itself, and I'll come back to a bit about the launch in a second, but Birmingham itself is an amazing place, because Birmingham's been around since the break of dawn, really. We've been here forever, but I think we've just discovered ourselves in the past 15, 20 years, especially this last couple of years, with the Commonwealth Games coming here, all that sort of stuff. I think we're just exploding with energy and enthusiasm, and the amount of people, whether it's startups, whether it's the corporates, everyone's kind of going, there's just an opportunity for us here, and people are embracing it, and people are talking, they're working together. And that's what's kind of happened. So, as you mentioned, we were on the NatWest Accelerator. We'd worked with them for a few years, and we came back as a high growth business recently. And what happened in there, we ended up having, this was a couple of years ago, we started this conversation, but we noticed, I was talking to one of the managers there, and I got given the opportunity to pitch to the head of NatWest Business from down in London, and we were chatting away, and I sort of explained what we're doing, and he went, I love this. This is brilliant, what you're doing. I can see the real benefit of this. And they're part of, NatWest owns Free Agent, which is the UK's leading accounting software for small business. So we got introduced to them, conversations continue. And we've just, at the launch, we also announced the fact that we're now being made, and I'm very proud of this one, we're being made Free Agent's official CRM partner.
Fantastic.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. So what that means when we talk about that journey of going from conversation in the pub at the bare roots, somebody can follow a prospect right the way through their sales pipeline, which is completely customized, right the way down to drop it into a column which is identified, and it pings straight out to Free Agent, comes back down into there. It's a transparent journey for someone and just simple.
Again, enhancing that connectivity and just making life easy for small businesses. I love it. Now, very quickly, I want to find out what has been your biggest lessons along your journey as an entrepreneur. What are the things that have stuck out for you? I know there are so many learnings and we learn on a daily basis, but what are those ones that you just don't forget quickly?
I think it's the obvious one, which I've mentioned earlier, which is listen to your customers. So as an entrepreneur, and I know, because you speak to lots of other entrepreneurs, and I know you're one, Davis, as well, we go into this world and we have this tunnel vision, right? I've got this idea is going to be brilliant. But our customers can give us so much more insights. And the problem is, once you put all the heart, put all your effort into launching this product, you kind of go, it's got to work.
Yeah, it becomes your baby.
It's my baby, yeah. But often your customers can give you so much more insight into what's actually good. And as an entrepreneur, you have that fear that what happens if they don't love my baby? What happens if I don't have the beautifulest baby in the world? And that can put you off. So put all that aside and just talk to people. We got amazing, amazing metrics from just having conversations with people, and it transformed my business. But I suppose that's on the sort of the sales side. On the operations side, it's really planning and being as detailed as possible, but not worrying about getting it perfect. So when it comes to develop, as I go back to what I said earlier, when it comes to developing it, plan it all out, run through every scenario, and then when I talk to my developers, I can kind of go, I want A, B, C, D to happen. They understand the exact flow of it all happening and how it's going to work, how people are going to engage with it. It makes the development process work smoother, which saves us money, and it means that all the relationships and cash flow, everything works a lot smoother. So listen to customers and
plan effectively.
Yeah.
I think those are fantastic lessons, because if the customers are going to be the ones paying for it, they might as well get a product that they want. And when we listen to customers, we actually get the great value. Now, before I let you go, I want to find out about Simon Washbrook, the man. I've heard about Simon Washbrook, the entrepreneur. So tell me, generally in your life, besides your business, what are the things that you enjoy doing? Who's Simon outside of work?
Outside of work, Simon is, and this will sound very cheesy, I know, but I'm a dad, and I'm married to my wife, Lynn. I've got 3 kids, Milo, Owen and Pepper, who I absolutely adore, and they're my utter drivers. So I kind of, going back to the corporate world, I was working silly hours, and then when I set up my own, I was still putting silly hours in, and then when Milo, my eldest, arrived, who's 13 now, I kind of went, I want to be there for him. And I want to be a dad, so I've always kind of, kids have been there for me the whole time, and I've been determined to put that in place. So for me, it's that, and within reason, Friday nights for us is movie night, where the family sits down with a box of popcorn and we watch a movie together.
Interesting. Box of popcorn for the family that runs popcorn.
Yeah.
Couldn't be better than that. Thank you so much, Simon, for coming on the show today. It's been a lot of fun talking to you and learning about popcorn and your journey. And we wish you a whole lot of success as the business continues to forge ahead.
Thank you very much, Davies.
Thank you so much, Simon.
My name's Laura. I'm the director of the Central School of Makeup and the founder of Backstage Artists Agency. Once we got in contact with the Growth Hub, we went through quite a large screening process in terms of our business and what our business wanted to achieve. And we were immediately connected with other facilities within the Birmingham area that could help our business grow. I really feel that my account manager, Charlotte, is really interested in our business and the ideas that we have to grow our business, and is extremely supportive of what we want to do. We have created our business plan and a vision which we've really crystallised now for the business, and we have a real focus on how we want to move forward, and I've been able to communicate that back to the Growth Hub. And Charlotte has been able to connect me now with other businesses and facilities that can help us make those ideas become a reality.
Arden Cross Limited has unveiled plans for a major medtech campus in Solihull. The developers signed a memorandum of understanding with both University Hospitals Birmingham and the University of Warwick to create a new medtech campus at its £3.2 billion development. Arden Cross says the move will present a unique opportunity for the West Midlands to lead the way in digital healthcare while bringing together the public, private and academic sectors to form a globally leading campus. A Black Country wire manufacturer has appointed a new managing director as it looks to build on a record 12 months. Alloy Wire International, which employs 33 people at its factories in Brierley Hill and Batley in Yorkshire, has promoted Tom Mander to the role after being with the company for more than 17 years. The move sees the previous managing director, Mark Venables, move upstairs to become the chairman. An industrial apprentice from Birmingham has been named one of the region's brightest vocational stars. Brandau's Oliver Escreet overcame competition from more than 100 apprentices across the West Midlands to secure the management and leadership title at the IMCOM Training Awards. More than 300 people packed into the East Side rooms to hear how he's helped the company to generate £500,000 of reshoring business from Asia.
We can't get enough of Birmingham Tech Week, so we're going to go back to Pam Shima, who is meeting some other incredible people and is going to be bringing us insights and views and the live experience of Birmingham Tech Week.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Steam House. It is Birmingham Tech Week and I have an amazing panel for you today. So let's have a chat with, do you want to introduce yourself, Ravi?
Sure. Hi, my name is Ravi. I'm a founder of Vilo. It's a real-time payment and reward application for non-profit organizations and micro SMEs.
Awesome. Daniel?
Hi, my name is Daniel Coleman. I'm a premium fashion designer of a brand called La Mature Clothing, and I'm also a student at BCU.
Awesome. And Kavita?
Hi, I'm Kavita. I'm the CEO and owner of Word360. That's a tech-enabled language company.
Right, amazing. Welcome to Birmingham Tech Week. Now, all three of you have very diverse businesses. So the first thing I want to hear about is the theme is global and scale up. So, Ravi, tell me about your career, your entrepreneur journey, and how have you grown?
Within a short time, we have grown massively in terms of the business side as well as acquiring the customers. And it's majorly because of all the support that we have received through the community in the Birmingham region as well as, I would say, the entire West Midlands. And it was a roller coaster journey, but we were able to raise 2 rounds of funding so far. And also at this stage, we're in a process to scale. And talking about this, making it global, so we are also exploring a different region, majorly the MENA area in the Dubai region to expand.
Amazing, amazing. So raise funds, looking to scale, now global as well. So wonderful, thank you. Daniel, tell us about your business and how you're growing that. You've had your business for 3 years?
4 years.
4 years now.
Yeah. So I've had my business for 4 years. It was 4 years in August. I started it with my lunch money. I just saved up like £172 of my lunch money. Then I bought my first set of t-shirts. It was about 14 t-shirts. And then my first customers were literally my friends, people in the local area that just saw the t-shirt. They saw me wearing it and they sort of just wanted it. So I started to sell to them. And then from there, I thought of making a website and got the website. I made it myself, and then from there things started to pick up. The main inspiration actually came from my older brother. It was when I was in year 6 and he was in year 9, so he made a hoodie for himself, and then in year 6 I was inspired by that because around that time a lot of people were wearing similar brands, and I thought to myself that I wanted to stand out from from everyone else that was wearing like similar brands. So then I made my first garment in year 6, and then fast forward to year 11, that's when I actually started the business.
That's amazing. So hang on, year 11, you were 16? 17. So you started your business when you were 14, 15, were you?
I started the business when I was 17.
17?
But I made my first garment in year 6.
That's amazing. That's like really young. I love that it's a passion project.
Yeah.
And I love that actually your inspiration was your brother as well and wanting to stand out. That's amazing. Kavita, so tech business.
Yeah.
Tell me all about your business.
Okay, so we've been around a little bit longer than that, unfortunately. We've been around for 10 years.
Amazing.
I come from a healthcare background. I was an optometrist, and I fancied breaking out on my own and starting my own business. So didn't come from a tech background, and thought, saw a niche in the marketplace where you've got patients going into hospitals and they've got language barriers.
Yes.
And everything was very in person, so you'd have to send somebody to a hospital or send somebody out on location, and I wanted to kind of disrupt that model. So I designed a software that enabled people to communicate with non-English speakers in real time, either through telephone or by video, as well as in face-to-face. So our business has grown. We built our first kind of tech platform in 2016, and we didn't think our business would grow as much. And then we had to rebuild it again over COVID because everything went digital.
Yes.
And it really validated our business model.
So now we know a little bit more about your business. What would you say, open to all of you, what would you say are the barriers to scale? What's held you back the most?
So I think for us, the initial barrier was access to finance because the early stage, and as every tech business, we need initial funds to build a product which we can test with the customers. And that was quite challenging to raise our initial seed round of funding. However, through the connections and network, we were, like me and my business partner, Rona, we always open to go into all of the events and networking, and that's how we connected with the people. And people refer to the potential investors and the angels, and that's how we were able to work around and raise our funds. So that's the initial, I would say. And the second one is definitely for any startup, and especially for a fintech. Trust is a major factor for anything. Definitely. So we have to raise our business profile and build that trust factors. And that's why we applied for multiple awards. And luckily, we were able to won around 8 to 9 awards so far that help us to build that credibility and trust in the region that eventually help us to get the customer that we wanted.
Do you know, I love that, what you said about awards, because I was talking to you about it, wasn't I, Daniel, in terms of it not only is it giving you validation, it's giving you that profile, but also that credibility, and you can say, I am a multiple award winner. That's rich, that's rich content, isn't it? So I love that. So I guess barriers were investment, creating trust with your service users and your product users, and then actually getting that messaging out. That's absolutely lovely. No, thank you. Who'd like to go next?
Yeah, I think I resonate. That resonates. I think building a profile and credibility is so important, and we did the same thing. Got a whole string of awards behind us that gave us that credibility to then go out and market ourselves with confidence. But also a skills shortage and understanding where to find the right talent. Yes. As a Birmingham-based business, we were working in technologies that were quite new in the region, and so getting that talent was somewhat of a challenge. So we ended up going global. We ended up going and looking in Romania, getting outsourcing some of our development there, and more recently looking in India. But with the model of bringing those people into Birmingham again, so that we're building that economy here.
That's amazing. So reaching out for the talent and then reinvesting it here, and that's sort of that developing that skills gap and skills shortage. That's wonderful. Daniel, totally different business. What were your biggest barriers? I know you raised your kind of first initial money from savings and then friends and family. What were the other challenges you had?
One of the other challenges that I still have to this day is finding manufacturers or suppliers that are trustworthy, because a lot of the times I've spoken to them, and I've just been scammed. I've sent them the product that I want. I've sent them the money I've sent them the product I want. They've given me a price. I've sent them the money, and they've just scammed me. So I feel like they're developing trust with manufacturers, especially when I'm outsourcing it in different countries, for like trust. And my aim is to hopefully one day go out to different countries and actually meet the manufacturers face to face and actually build that relationship as well. So that's one of the main barriers I've had.
No, that's great, because I'm hearing that word a lot, trust, you know? So how do you do that? Like when you're scoping people to work with, are you speaking to your mentors? Are you speaking to your peers? You know, what's the best way of going about overcoming that challenge?
I'll probably say just learning by experience. So for me, I've used a range of different manufacturers over time, and there's been like a common denominator between the ones that have scammed me and between the ones that I've been able to trust. So there's certain things that they will do, there's certain ways that they will talk, and I will know, okay, these are the red flags that this person had, so I'm not going to use them, and that's how I've been able to overcome it.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And how important was it to you to build that trust with your suppliers? Because obviously you went out to source talent, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it was about managing the risk. I think, you know, in any of this, there is an element of risk, and you have to be prepared to fail. I think recommendation is really important. So we went through recommendation and went with potential suppliers that came through recommendation. We only gave them a very small project, get them to deliver that, and then kind of built on that. And I think upfront payment, probably not. I think that's probably
learning, isn't it? Yeah,
you learn. You know, if they're good for it, then they'll deliver the goods.
Yeah, and it's interesting to say that, isn't it? Because entrepreneurship is about learning, isn't it? You kind of do something, you fail a bit, you don't make that mistake again, you grow a bit, you know, and it is that cycle, isn't it? That's really good sound advice as well, isn't it?
And it's peer-to-peer learning as well. The more you talk about it, the more you'll realise that actually everyone makes those kind of mistakes, and you start off and you're like, oh my God, it's only me. But when you actually come into a forum like this, like Birmingham Tech Week, and you have conversations, you're like, oh, well, you're not actually the only person. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Ronan and Ravi, sorry.
Absolutely, the similar words. And as she mentioned, like it's very much about learning from our past experience and also through connections and network, because when they refer someone, they know there's a 2 level of trust factors. If anything goes wrong, there's 2 level of things. That's definitely one of the major point. However, other point also which I believe, like the gut feeling. Sometimes gut feeling by itself says, no, this is the right thing, that energy or vibe that we call. So like these are the things which I believe that majorly play a role in trusting a person or organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So entrepreneurship, when you work for corporate, you have a boss, right? If I have a problem where I work, I can go to my manager. When you're entrepreneurs, you're pretty much your own boss, right? You're the jack of everything. You're your marketing director, you're your FD, you're the product manager, you're the branding manager. So how do you manage that as an entrepreneur? What's your top tips there in terms of growth?
I think that's probably the one thing that entrepreneurs do quite naturally, is that they can spin plates, you know, and the thing that drives them is the passion, the sheer passion to get things done. But I think that for me, the biggest thing was identifying my weaknesses and getting the skills in that I wasn't good at. So I'm great at the commercial side and the sales side, but where I lack is the kind of administration, the operational side. So bringing that skill into the business was fundamental to help me to work to my strengths. And I think that's the advice that I'd give, is kind of work to your strengths and outsource the rest.
For us also, we in the organization, we follow like perfection is the enemy of good. So if you're good, don't stop yourself, do it, and you can be perfect during that journey. And it's very much important to learn and sharp that skill which you're not good at, as she mentioned about work. Know your weakness and work around that. And if you don't have that, you can outsource it. There are people around our network who can help to sort out those things.
As you guys have both said, your strengths, know your strengths, and then if you have weaknesses, find people who can help you implement those bits that you're not too good at. What I've also done is I've tried to find apps and find even YouTube and Google to just learn the things that I'm not too good at. Like it might be advertisement. I'll learn about that on YouTube, and also I'll find someone that I can outsource it with, so that I will know and have like an understanding of the things that they're doing, so that I will know like what to do as well.
Amazing. So self-learning, filling in the gaps yourself, important, bringing in resource, knowing your skills, but then filling those gaps and knowing your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I must admit, one of the first things, I used to work with lots of entrepreneurs, the first thing they'd outsource is their finances. But my recommendation is entrepreneurs, know your numbers, because how do you know what you're working to? You know, you need to know your numbers. So
pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first as well.
Because if you can't put food on the table, then there's no business.
No,
is
and I
there,
think
really?
I said this, didn't I? I said otherwise it's not a business, it's an
Nope.
expensive hobby.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. So why Birmingham? Like, we've got Birmingham Tech happening, we're at Steam House today, you're a graduate of Aston University, BC University, you're based in Birmingham. So why Birmingham? What do you think special about the region here?
I think from my perspective, obviously I'm going to have a skew. Languages. I mean, we live in such a diverse community. Just to put a stat out there, we delivered 127 languages through my interpreting company in Birmingham last year, which is a reflection of the local demographic. We support, like I said, the public sector, so NHS, councils, local businesses, and that was the language support that they needed. So that talent is in Birmingham right now, and it's a case of tapping into those and upskilling that network, because they all have skills to give, and it's trying to mobilise that workforce, upskill them so that they can contribute to the local economy as well. So
Love
I think,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, so lots of opportunity, diversity, and embracing what you have in front of you, yeah? Exactly. Absolutely wonderful. Yourself, Daniel?
I chose Birmingham because there's a lot of help for startups like the Steam House and the Accelerator. There's a lot of adversity as well, so that's why I chose it.
Amazing. And Ravi, well, you just got off a plane yesterday from India, and you're here now in Birmingham Tech Week. Why Birmingham?
I think for me, I feel Birmingham, I have few friends like back in Silicon Valley, in US and all.
Yeah.
I feel like Birmingham is a Silicon Valley of the UK, where every business and every people is more about let's grow together. Let's support each other rather than no, you work yourself, I'm going to work myself. It's more about let's go together, let's grow the entire community together. And that's exactly like being me from India. It's been around 3 years in UK. But whatever we achieved so far is because of the strong community and the support that we have received from different people and organizations.
Wonderful. So what a wonderful quote. Birmingham is like the Silicon Valley of the West Midlands. I love it. So if one last top tip that you would give to entrepreneurs looking to grow, just one top tip, what would that be?
Well, I think from my perspective, it's a really exciting city to be in right now. There's a lot of help out there. So my top tip would be to tap into all of those amazing resources, all of those levels of support, mentoring that's available in the city, because there's a lot out there to help you grow.
Awesome.
My top tip will be passionate about the thing that you're trying to start, because if you've not got a passion for it, and if you don't like it 100%, people are not going to like it. I'll also say take the risk or lose the chance, because opportunities come and go, and if you don't take the opportunity that's given to you right now, you might not get it again.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Like it will be the similar words, but I would like to mention that if any entrepreneurs have or struggling for anything, don't feel shy for asking help. Ask from your next to your colleagues or anyone, because this entire Birmingham is very supportive. So ask for anyone for anything if you're struggling for anything.
Wonderful. Amazing top tips there from our entrepreneurs. I just want to say massive thank you to the panel today. Thank you for all your contributions, some huge top tips. And we'll enjoy the rest of Birmingham Tech Week. Thank you.
How do you hope your colleagues would describe you?
Firm, but very fair.
What qualities do you look for in colleagues?
Loyalty.
Character assets needed for a successful leader?
Empathy, I think is very, very important. And clear vision.
Advice you would give to your younger self?
Always play the game with people that are better than you.
The biggest influence on your business career?
My father.
Pet hates in the workplace?
Untidy desk.
To the nearest 10, how many social media visits a day?
500.
Early bird or night owl?
I burn the candle at both ends.
Food heaven?
Doner kebab and chips.
Food hell?
Spinach.
Physical workout or TV box set?
Physical workout.
Favourite personal possession?
My cricket bat.
The biggest influence on your life?
Again, it's my father.
Your proudest achievement?
And my children.
Well, that was Pam Sheamer there at Steam House as part of our two-parter from Birmingham Tech Week, and Pam will be out and about on our next month's show. Don't forget, if you'd like to have a crew from our BBTV team visiting your premises, drop us a line, let us know what you're up to, and we'd love to get you involved in the show. Now then, Henriette from the LEP is still with us. We've been joined now for our panel debate by two other local businesses. We've got Sarah Spires from Everley Studios and Amisha Smith-Green from The Bookshelf, talking about skills, really, is what we're talking about here. So if I can ask the two of you just to tell me a bit about you and your business. Sarah, tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. So I'm Sarah. I've got a business based in Solihull in the West Midlands. We've been going for about 2 years now. My business is in fashion design, so my history is as a fashion designer. Been doing it for about 20 years now, and then I set up a business with my partner Rachel about 2 years ago, and it's really flourishing. And we basically provide design services to retailers in the UK and then also to suppliers and factories overseas. We've got some really great clients that we work with already. So we've got Morrison's, they're one of our clients. We've got Next, New Look, and we literally will go into their offices and design specific categories for them.
So you're seeing what's coming up. How far in advance?
Yes, we're designing autumn/winter 23 at the moment, so we tend to start about a year ahead. So we've just done a big trend forecasting exercise. We're looking at the catwalks. So we've got a team of about 30 freelancers that we work with. So if a menswear project comes in, we'll get a menswear expert to look at it. And then we've got a team of 6 in-house designers that we work with every day, basically, that we employ.
So your skills needs actually then are quite diverse.
They are. We have, and we find that our clients really like having the breadth of designers that we have on our books because everybody has their own kind of handwriting in fashion. So, you know, someone's really good at doing pretty girly stuff and somebody else will be good at doing kind of sportswear. So we can play into like the skills and the best talent that we can for each project that we work on.
Hold that thought, I'll come back to you in a minute.
Okay.
You should tell me a bit about your business.
Yeah, hi Carl. So my business is The Bookshelf, and we help aspiring authors to write and self-publish books on their subject matter expertise. So Sarah, for example, if she wanted to write a book on fashion, she might come to us with an idea and say, look, I want to write this book, and we'd help her get more focused. And we go through the process of coaching, editing, design, so basically turning it from a Microsoft Word document into an actual book, covers, getting it on Amazon or another platform, marketing. So we call it Idea to Bookshelf, and it's basically because a lot of people are subject matter experts, but they might not be natural writers, or they might not know how to actually get a book out there into the world.
So this is good, isn't it? Because they say everybody's got a book in
Yeah.
them. So does that mean everybody is a potential client of yours?
Yeah, basically. Anyone who just wants to share their knowledge. It's really good for entrepreneurs who want to like grow their businesses and increase their credibility in their industry, or just to help more people than they can help through directly working with clients. So we've worked on literally 500 or 600 books with authors everywhere around the world, first timers to New York Times bestsellers. We have a lot of dyslexic authors, so it's a real range of people. It's all non-fiction, and generally it's, as I like to call it, books that make the world better.
Excellent. So where are you based then, and how many people have you got in your team?
So we're based in Birmingham. In my immediate team, I've got a couple of employees, but then like Sarah, we also have a team of freelancers who are based around the world.
Excellent. Now, Henriette's here because, of course, this is an example of two businesses that the LEP has helped to support. Would these be typical kinds of case studies that you would work with then?
Yes, well, of course, they're unique. They're both unique in their own way and particularly creative and fantastically successful. But what we're finding with businesses across the region and across sectors is that the challenge to recruit and retain talent is a real challenge at the moment, particularly so coming out of COVID. So supporting businesses with knowing where to find the talent and how to search for it is really important, because what we're also finding is that there is what we call a labour market disconnect, really high levels of unemployment in the city region, particularly youth unemployment, but also high levels of unfilled vacancies. So there's a bridging role to be done there.
You're both nodding. Sarah, from your point of view, I mean, how easy are you finding it at the moment to find the kind of people that you need?
I think we haven't found it too difficult, but what's great about fashion is that it is quite specialised, so you're either kind of trained in it or not. But what actually we've done is that we, with help from your team, we actually took an apprenticeship on about 9 months ago. And we've gone through a teething process with it. She'd got some experience in fashion design. She didn't have a degree. But actually, with the help of the team, we found someone really great, and we've trained her up, and she's doing really well now. And I'd say for the first 3 months, we were like, oh gosh, this is really hard. Are we going to get her to where she needs to be so she can start generating money for our business? But actually, I'd say after about month 6, we sort of got to the break-even point. And then I'd say since then, between month 6 and 9, she is starting to generate an income into the business. So really, really helpful, I would say, actually. And we're going to do another one because it's worked so well. So we'll be coming back for some more help there. So that's been really good, actually.
This
is good news. It's what you want to hear, isn't it?
That's fantastic. And apprenticeships are such a good route towards gaining both the qualification and skills, but also that really important work experience. And again, of course, during the pandemic, that's been really difficult for young people to get that experience. And there's so much more to work than just skills. There's a lot of getting used to what's needed to go to work, even the turning up on time, the resilience, the dealing with feedback, which isn't always positive feedback, but how do you cope with that in a constructive way? There's a lot of value in work experience that you get through an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
What about your business then, Amisha? How are you, from a recruitment point of view, do you find, are all the kind of people, the skilled people you want here in Birmingham?
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky in a sense because there's not much of a creative industry in Birmingham. So every time I advertise a vacancy, there are literally hundreds of applicants. So the first time I advertised just to take on 2 interns through the University of Birmingham, I had 176 applicants for 2 posts. Wow. So yeah, in a way, it's a really good thing because it means obviously we have a huge amount of talent to choose from. But then the downside, as you were saying, is then it's really sad because you want to be able to hire everyone and to give people those opportunities, because there are so many young people who want to get into work, especially in the publishing industry, which is really difficult to access, and you can't take on everyone. So I tend to offer a lot of internships. So I took on 7 interns last year. I offer a lot of work experience where I'll basically empower like my junior team members to look after the work experience people. So it gives them a bit of a taste of managing and supervising people. So yeah, it's a kind of, it's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess, because yeah, there is lots of talent, but then I would like to be able to take on.
Well, with that sort of pool of people, you can see why they're trying to build the creative side of Birmingham, because the people are obviously just here waiting for the jobs, aren't they? How have you interacted then with the LEP? How's the LEP helped your business?
Yeah, so very similar. The LEP helped me to take on 2 Kickstarters, which was a government programme basically to help young people get into work. So I took on 2 last year, and they were absolutely incredible. As you said, there's always a little bit of a like teething sort of teething programme. But it was, yeah, they were absolutely brilliant. They were both young people who'd actually moved over from Poland when they were 7. They both spoke English as a second language, so they already had challenges getting into the publishing industry because it's quite closed. And yeah, we were able to train them up, and one went on to do her master's, which was really nice, and then the other got offered a social media manager job in London, which just shows the power of literally having kind of a year's work experience for a company. She's then able to go on to get another role. But yeah, it was all thanks to the LEP really, and taking us through all the process. And as you probably know, there's a lot of paperwork and everything involved in in going through these programmes, and the LEP really helped with access to funding and how to fill in the paperwork, and yeah, just supported us through the whole thing.
And I guess much as there's some challenges with taking on apprentices or interns or Kickstarters, the plus side is that you're able to actually mould somebody who's quite raw into the philosophy of your own business, isn't it? You can build them from scratch,
Yeah,
can't you? So-
definitely, yeah. And sort of the thing is, we've got in our business, we've got a few people that design for us now. We've got and we've had an apprenticeship and apprentice start, and we also had a graduate start last year as well around the same time. They've both got different skill sets, but it's interesting how they've developed, and actually there is still a benefit to having a degree. I am a big advocate for universities and getting your degree, but it's not for everybody, and I think it's good to have other avenues of accessing careers, not just university. So I think anything that helps with that, like you say with the Kickstarter scheme, apprenticeship scheme, just gives people that wouldn't necessarily be able to consider university because of the cost, or they just don't want to do it, they can still access those careers in a different way.
Henriette, is the pandemic or the fallout from the pandemic still affecting the skills agenda? Is it causing problems still? Is there a lull?
Whether you can relate it directly back to the pandemic, I couldn't 100% tell you, but what is a fact is that it's very difficult to recruit. Now, you've got small creative businesses that are looking for quite niche skill set, and and obviously you're the types of businesses that are really in demand. What we hear a lot from businesses is we've got these vacancies, we just can't find people, and we try and recruit. We either don't get enough applicants, we get applicants but they don't turn up for interview. If they do turn up for interview, they might not turn up after we've offered them the job. So real challenges there when you know there are opportunities out there, and I think part of that is about confidence. There's been quite a bit of research done into young people and how they were affected by the lockdown periods in particular, and that time without a lot of social interaction, and a lot of people in general now suffer from something called a pessimism bias, where they rule themselves out of opportunities and think, I've read that advert, but that's not for someone like me. We've got to break down those barriers, because we absolutely need those people in the labour market, and they've probably got all sorts of talents that they're not aware of themselves. And you two should be applauded as well for saying, yes, it takes an investment into an apprentice or a Kickstarter, but at the end of it, you've got really talented and loyal employees, and you've helped local people develop and recognise their own talent, which is obviously what we're doing with anyone who comes through our door or picks up the phone to us.
My impression is that one of the fallouts from the pandemic is that people want more flexible, fluid ways of working, and I guess maybe both of your businesses, you're sort of able to offer that. Are you? Is that one of the things that, you know, when you're talking to candidates, if somebody wants to work from home, or if they want to work weekends or start early or finish early, I guess you're sort of in a position where you're looking if you can sort of do that, can you?
Yeah, even during the interview process, I will ask them, you know, what kind of hours do you prefer working? Do you like working in a team or on your own? Do you prefer to work in the office or at home, or a mixture of both? And it's good to be able to offer that flexibility, especially if it's in non-client facing roles. It doesn't really matter to me if they want to log on at 6:30 in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. So I would much rather people work the hours that suit them in the way that suits them. And yes, some days we'll go into the office, other days we'll work from home, some days we'll be out at events. So it's nice, I think, being able to have that mix. But yeah, as you were saying, I think the skills thing is also plays a big part in it, because a lot of people won't apply if they don't think they have the skills. So we've actually moved away from job adverts that are like, we require this, this, this and this, and to say, actually, we're looking for these kinds of people, because we can teach people the skills as long as they've already got an interest in books. And
it's an attitude, isn't it?
It's much more about an attitude and about sort of communication, and just, you know, do we have that rapport with them? Will they fit in with the team? You know, are they enthusiastic and motivated to learn? Because we can teach them anything. Yeah, so I think that helps young people as well get into work, because then they're not having to, think I need these skills and I don't have them, which is obviously a big barrier for people entering the workplace where they haven't had a job before.
And I know you said you're an advocate for university, but I guess it's much the same from your point of view. There isn't a typical set of qualifications for your industry, is there?
There is quite a lot of there are a lot of graduates that come out of university, so there's a lot of specific fashion design courses. We've got a lovely lady with us this week who's here today. She's on work experience. She's just graduated from Birmingham University. She studied fashion design. She's called Garance. She won a massive amount of awards at Graduate Fashion Week, and she's actually already got a job. She's told me this week, but hopefully she'll come back and work for me. One day she's going to go and work for Mothercare as a designer for them. So yeah, she's done really, really well with that. So, but yeah, there are a lot of graduates coming out of universities with degrees specifically in fashion subjects. So I think if you haven't got that, you are up against it a little bit. I don't think as a young person who didn't have any qualifications in fashion, you would really be considered unless you had an apprenticeship or you'd done a Kickstarter and gained some experience in it in some way.
Do you feel like there's the right sort of support available in Birmingham at the moment for young people to get what they need to progress and thrive in business? Who wants to answer that one? Who wants the least thinking time?
It's a difficult question, isn't it? I think there are courses and there are things that you can do. So, for instance, just thinking about the world I work in, which is fashion, there are lots of fashion courses and things that you can do, and particularly degrees that are specifically focused and very vocational, actually, that will help you get into a job. But then there probably are a lot of people who could do it, but just wouldn't know where to go or how to start. So I think it's, in my world, it's, I don't know, unless you've got that degree, I think it's quite difficult. Can be quite difficult.
What are the sort of typical skill sets in your sector then that you're looking for? How do you know when you've got the right person?
So there are some skills. I think, as you said, there are lots of people who apply who have got a degree in English, and a lot of traditional publishers won't consider people unless they have a degree in English. But yeah, for me, I think it's less about the specific skill, like the hard skills, as they say. So it's less about, you know, are they amazing on social media, and it's more about, yeah, what kind of personality are they? So I always ask people at interview, like, what are your top 3 values? And they always go, because they've not been asked it. But yeah, I would much rather take on people who have the same kind of values and they buy into our mission as a company. And I think that also makes it easier to retain them because they actually buy into the vision and they can see how they're having an impact on the company. So yeah, I focus far less on hard skills. As long as they can communicate clearly, that's obviously the biggest thing in the book industry. But yeah, we can pretty much teach them everything else.
Excellent. What sort of practical advice would you give then, Henriette, to young people that are maybe looking at some ideas about how they can gain the skills that they need to get the jobs they want?
So I would say, obviously, talk to the careers advice in your own college or schools. But also there is something called the Youth Hub in the Central Library in Birmingham. I know there are youth hubs in other places, but certainly one in the Central Library on Centenary Square where you could go to find out a bit more about what your roots might be. Because for some people it's very straightforward. I do my A-levels going to university. That's not for everyone for a variety of reasons, as we already touched upon. Today we've got the apprenticeship fair in Millennium Point. These are recurring events, so if you think I'd quite like to dip my toe into finding out a bit more about an apprenticeship, because maybe going into university isn't for me, then I'd go to events like that. I do agree it's not always straightforward, so try and find an organisation, and there's plenty of them around that can help you guide you through that journey, really. And there's so much opportunity there.
Amisha and Sarah, I'll let you have the last word. You know, we talked at the very start of the show here about how it's important not to talk the economy down. There's lots of bad news out there at the moment. I'm sensing that both of you are feeling fairly optimistic about your businesses at the moment then.
Yeah, I'm feeling really optimistic, actually. So I started my business in 2018 and I was just a freelancer on my own trying to figure it out. And then in around 2020, I joined the NatWest Accelerator programme and they introduced me to the Growth Hub. And I think I've actually discovered this amazing network of other entrepreneurs and business owners. And through working with NatWest and with the Growth Hub and those kinds of organisations, I've realised there's just so much information that you can tap into, and there's such an amazing network of people out there. It's just, as you said, it's about finding them. And I've had access to things like mentoring mentoring, and I mentor students as well to try and help them on their career journey. So I think it can be much more positive, and you can have a much better experience when you actually find those networks and realise you're not on your own and other people are facing these same problems, and everyone's really happy to help you. And a lot of the time, you know, if I'm in the office in the NatWest building, I'll just say, oh, does anyone know about this? And someone will pop up and be like, oh yeah, my business does that, or I know someone who does that. So I think just finding a supportive network really, can really improve your business journey or the journey of finding a career. So yeah, reaching out to mentors and just trying to get support from other business owners and realising you're not on your own, it can make you much more positive about the future of your business.
And Sarah, where are you on the optimism scale at the moment then?
We're in a good place actually. So our business has done well the last couple of years. Like despite COVID, we've had quite a good time. So the business has grown really quickly over the last 2 years, and we're in a position now where we've got a really good hub in Birmingham and sort of the Midlands area of businesses we work with, fashion businesses. But there's loads of opportunity for us in Manchester and London. So we're looking to expand our business and actually work more with fashion businesses in Manchester and London, and basically emulate what we've done here in Birmingham there. And then also internationally, we're working with new clients internationally every week. So there's a big opportunity for us to expand our international business. It's about 50-50 at the moment, UK international, but they're both flourishing and doing well. So there's loads of opportunity. We're at a point with our business where we don't know whether to take investment or not. We've had some interest from investors, but we don't know whether to kind of do it ourselves and just organically grow or to take the plunge. So we're at that point with our business, so we'll see what happens.
And the uncertainty of everything going on at the moment doesn't help you
Yeah,
make
exactly.
that decision, does it? Really?
Yeah,
So.
but feeling optimistic, definitely.
Excellent. I like an interview that ends on an optimistic note. Sarah, Amisha and Henriette, thank you very much for your time. Great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a fantastic interview, and what a remarkable way to end today's show.
There's been plenty going on again today, hasn't there? We've had analysis, we've had news, views, plenty of technology as well, of course. And don't forget, what we really want to be doing here on this show is talking about the things that you're talking about. So if you'd like us to come and pay a visit to your premises, then let us know. If you want to be brave enough to take a seat on one of our panels, either with me, with Davis, with Joel, then please do. And of course, there's lots of ways to catch up on what we've already broadcast, isn't there?
Absolutely. You could go to bbtv.live. You could watch the first episode. You could watch this over and over again. And that is where to find us every single time. We want to hear from you. We want to get your feedback. So feel free to reach out to us.
Please do spread the word on social media. And don't forget, we'll be back same time next month with more news, views, analysis and debate here from the Liquid Media Centre in the heart of Birmingham. See you soon.
Thank you for joining us.